again, and we're back with another deck tech for EDH, or in some people's cases, Commander. Today we have another special guest, and one of my favorite generals in the form of Riku of Two Reflections. To be honest, Riku of Two Reflections is probably the general that actually got me into Commander. Like Kali of the Vast, he is also from the original Commander expansion that is released every year. If you can tell by the smirk on his face, Riku of Two Reflections is always up to no good. Whether it be copying your creatures or copying your instants and sorceries, Riku is likely going to give you a lot of value if you have enough mana. If you're not familiar with this general, he's also the same color as another general that I did recently, and that's Maelstrom Wanderer. Now, what makes Riku slightly different from Maelstrom Wanderer is I believe both generals have completely different playstyles. Maelstrom Wanderer is the kind of playstyle that you want to do if you just want to do bombastic things and you don't really care what you want to do. They'll cascade and get you 2 spells, but you don't know what those spells are. So in short, it's basically like a weekend in Vegas, except you don't have to lose tens of thousands of dollars. Riku, I feel, is better if you know exactly what spell you want to cast. That way you can tutor for it, or search for it, however means you plan on getting it, and then copy it to high heaven. Or hell, depending on which side of the board that you're on. For 5 mana, 2 generic, 1 blue, 1 red, and 1 green, you get Riku of Two Reflections, a legendary creature, obviously, human wizard, and it is a 2/2. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may pay blue and red. If you do, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for that copy. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay green and blue. If you do, put a token that is a copy of that creature onto the battlefield. It's important to note that you can only do these once per casting or once per each creature entering the battlefield. One other thing to note, as this is actually a triggered ability, even though you do have to pay mana, it is not an activated ability, so cards that nullify activated abilities like, what's her name, Linvala, will not stop Riku from working, which is a very nice benefit. It's also important to note that cards like Rule of Law and Aether Sword Canonist won't stop Riku's ability from working as well because you are copying the spell, not casting it. You're also putting a token of a creature that's in play as well. So, although you won't be able to cast 2 spells, you will still be able to get the copy or the additional token that Riku would produce. However, with all these benefits, there is a big downside. Riku himself is not very strong, and therefore relies on you copying spells and creatures to get most of your value. Another downside is you can only copy your creatures, but considering we run a ton of creatures and tons of spells, we can usually get a lot of value really quickly, and so that's really not so much of a downside. We just need the mana to do it. Now, like I stated before, depending on my mood swing, I'm either in the mood for either casting lots of spells at random or copying spells of my desire. Do keep in mind that although these decks are the same colors, they do follow very different, I guess you could say, lists, simply because not all cards in one deck are really compatible with another. Like most of the generals in this color, you can do a lot of really nasty things, and Riku is no different. In order to get to this state where we can do some of these ridiculous things, we will need to have a lot of mana. More specifically, we just run a ton of ramp. At the top there, you see all the artifacts I run. You got some staples like Soul Ring, Gilded Lotus, Darksteel Ingot, Mana Vault, and Thought Vessel, because we do draw a lot of cards. I feel like the most important artifact, however, in the deck that does make more mana is the Doubling Cube. If we do have ways to untap the cube, it can be used multiple times within a turn, and therefore we'll be getting a lot of mana. Below are the rest of the other creatures and non-creature spells that they use to ramp, using Sakura Tribe Elder, Battleclaw Mystic, Coiling Oracle, Solemn Simulacrum, Rites of Flourishing, as I guess you could say a kind of explore effect that helps everybody out, kind of gives people the illusion that they're being helped, and really we're just trying to do ridiculous things that no one will like. Kodama's Reach, Urban Evolution, Explore, This is Renewal, and Explosive Vegetation. The most important of these spells actually happens to be this one, which is Upwelling, which means that mana pools do not empty as phases or turns end. This is really nice because, considering we need a ton of mana to use Riku, having all that mana in our pool is actually quite dandy, and frankly, it's really good considering we need to copy lots of expensive stuff. The Planeswalkers of the deck also do quite a bit of ramping themselves, with classics like Garruk Wildspeaker giving us 2 extra lands a turn, Kira the Crashing Rave to give us some explores, Ralzeric, which untaps our lands and taps our other opponent's permanents, and Teferi, which gives us 4 untaps every turn. We also have Chandra the Firebrand, which may seem like kind of a flavorful card for a deck like this, considering she can copy some spells. She may not look like a ramp spell, but she can actually copy your other spells that do ramp, and it's actually quite nice. Another big key component of the deck is Zendikar Resurgent. With Upwelling and Doubling Cube, this can be a really, really big asset to your collection of, I guess you could say, spells and abilities to cast. Frankly, I'm just surprised this card is still under $1, where a card like Mana Reflection is over $20. Now, the big question comes to, what on earth do we do with all this mana? Well, if you're a swell guy like me, you'd infinitely chain together Time Warps, considering you're going to be copying 2 Time Warps and getting 2 turns every Time Warp. Yeah, you're going to be getting a lot of value out of this. Since we're completely swell with this, we have several other abilities and spells that allow us to get back these Time Warps if need be. Considering Riku can copy these creatures or spell, yeah, we can easily get back up to 1 Time Warp and something else, or 2 Time Warps in general. For more options as to what to copy, here's a lot of other spells you might recognize from my Maelstrom Wanderer deck, which I love to copy. A couple of new ones include the Prophetic Bolt, which deals 8 damage and gets an additional impulse. But ultimately, we're going to be getting a lot of value from all these spells if we successfully copy them. Getting doubles of Muldrifter or Things of Uthun drives card advantage through the roof, and getting copies of Chancellor Spires and Oblivion Primordial casts us a bunch of spells through the roof. You can also get a copy of Avenger of Zendikar to try to overwhelm your opponent with even more tokens than you normally would. And double casting Bribery, if you have multiple opponents, will allow you to search both of their decks, or up to 2 of their decks at least. We have several copy effects, which can be abused multiple times, getting anywhere from 2 to, I guess you could say, 12 copies. Is that right? 12 copies? Yes, it's 5 plus 1. So, no, sorry, 10 copies. That would be 10 copies, because you can actually kick Red Replication and then copy it. And I believe it will see that it is the kicked copy and copy that copy. And Blatant Thievery will steal a lot of permanents, and you'll get even more if you copy it. And unlike Maelstrom Wanderer, we do run a couple X spells. You can run more if you like, but my favorites are Blue Sun Zenith to draw a lot of cards, or make our opponent draw a lot of cards and try to deck them out. Or we can just do a giant Comet Storm, which, if you have the mana, can actually kill multiple people at once if you use 1 mana for the multi-kicker per target, I guess you could say. If you feel like your play group is going to be a little bit salty when they see these spells copied, a few other nice options are Seasons Pass, because you really like to get all those cards back from your graveyard. Traumatize, if you love mill. Frankly, this is only really good if you run a bunch of other milling cards, but doubling a Traumatize can really take a lot of threatening things out of a game. Talent of the Telepath. This especially works well as Spell Mastery. Copying this gives you 4 spells from the top of your opponent's decks, or up to 4 spells. Another personal favorite of mine is Caster Time. If you don't like to have the mana open to protect Riku, or have the extra mana to cast Riku, this is nice because you can get some rebounds and get lots of copies of spells anyway. Your opponents play lots of creatures that you would like to have. Teleman Performance is a great way to get some of those creatures. The creature you get is going to be kind of random. Teleman Performance is a lot of fun to copy, specifically because you can get 2 different creatures from 2 different players' decks. And finally, oh god, how'd you get there? Since most Magic the Gathering players know what's good for them, the moment Riku hits the table, they're likely going to focus fire all their removal spells on it, just so you can't have any fun. Because of this, we're able to run 8 counterspells to protect our general. This is slightly different from Maelstrom Wanderer, because we can't really run counterspells in Maelstrom Wanderer. We can run a couple, just because they have other modes that we can choose if we cascade into them. But we can't really run things that are just straight up counterspells, because if we cascade into those, we'll just end up countering one of our spells. With Riku, we need a lot more protection, because Riku kind of needs it, considering he does need a lot of mana. And, like I say, most Magic players know what's good for them. These 3 on the left here you might remember from Maelstrom Wanderer, as they have different modes for versatility. They also make great copies, however, if we copy them, it will choose the same modes that we copied, so just keep that in mind. Running things up, we have 4 hard counters. Disallow, which also counters abilities. Counterflux, which is a end-all counter wars, and can work well against Storm, and just old-fashioned counterspell. We also run a Mystic Snake, which gives us a little board presence. Copying a Mystic Snake is only really good if you have 2 targets. Lastly, we run a 1-mana counter in the form of Turn Aside, just mainly because Riku is our most important asset of this deck, and we want to protect him. Fun guilty pleasure, whenever I exchange Riku for Maelstrom Wanderer and vice versa, I never change any of the lands, because the lands are exactly the same. It's the exact same mana base, more or less. Like I say, if there's some lands like Ancient Tomb I know can be kind of hard to find, you can probably run something else, like one of the Karu lands from not Zendikar, Ravnica, like the Simic Growth Chamber. But frankly, this is a solid mana base. Like I say, it's really not much different from my version. Your version may vary, so you may want to cut like maybe some basics or some dual lands of various colors based on what you're going to be running. But I personally just like having it because most of, between both decks, most of the spells are green and blue, and there are a couple of red spells here and there, but red is the least common color. And that's overall Riku, or the idea of Riku. Like I say, my deck is very similar to my Maelstrom Wanderer deck, but if you know of other things you'd like to try, you're more than welcome to experiment. Like I say, 3-color commander decks usually have a lot of room for variety and uniqueness, so you can basically do whatever you like as long as it remains within your colors. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone deserves to have the knowledge of Magic the Gathering with them, so if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, as it will help get this and all the other videos on my channel out there. Again, my name is Ryu Spectre, thank you for joining me tonight, and I will see you all next time.